Look, I mean, it's your first day out there, and I'm sure you've got a lot of questions. There's not a lot that I would read into, like who's in the first group, who's in the second group. We're still sorting out, rotations, things of that nature. So, again, I would be, certainly in a position to, give you some information on guys, but, we're nowhere near like this is the group that we're rolling out for the opener against Clemson. So we've got a lot of work to do. This is spring training. This is the first lineup out there. We're moving players in and out. It's going to be a new rotation on Friday, so you'll get a chance to see a lot of different guys. The exciting part about it is we've got a lot of competition, and that's really been probably the one word that we've used more than anything else this spring, is that we've got great competition at a lot of different positions, and feel really good about the depth of the team and the roster itself, and it's really showed itself through the first few days. So a couple of announcements to make. We've got our coaches clinic beginning next week, March 20th through the 22nd. Excited about having the Saints staff here, the newly appointed head coach and Kellen Moore being here, offensive coordinator Nussmeier, defensive coordinator Staley, having them part of the clinic. We're pleased that are going to be able to join us with their busy schedule. The ULL coaching staff and Tulane coaching staff as well. Really appreciate that they're going to be able to be part of the coaching clinic as well. So really well represented in the state of Louisiana, and really excited about that. Also about the addition of Kyle Williams to our staff. He'll be, as you know, coaching our interior defensive line. I think it's well chronicled his playing career here at LSU, and then as an All-American, won a national title here at LSU, and then 6-time Pro Bowler, 13 years in the NFL. Certainly brings an impressive resume to the position, and just quality individual, high character, great husband and father, and somebody that really is who you want recruiting student athletes here to LSU. So just brings all of those things to the table, and really excited about his addition to our staff. So thanks for allowing me my comments. I'll let you guys fire away.
Yeah, Coach, just following up on the Kyle Williams stuff. I mean, he's been out there now for, I assume, a couple days. Just early thoughts on his coaching style and how he's relating to the players, and kind of just that early setup.
Yeah, I think the things that stand out immediately for me is his attention to the finer points of playing the position. Again, somebody that played the position and recently played the position, and clearly understands the nuances of the position, and can articulate and communicate that effectively to those that need to go play it now for LSU. I think that connection is very apparent to me. I got a chance to spend a little time out there today, probably about 10-15 minutes, just listening to him and the way he connects with the players. I know he's going to make a great impact for us.
Yeah, Coach Reddick, just following up on that, how important is the longevity, I guess, right? You've had a lot of different coaches in that position. How important was that in a factor in getting Kyle on board? And then secondly, your first video day, whatever, it was you versus you was kind of the message for spring ball. What is spring ball? Who is spring ball important for?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, the D-line job has been a turnover position. I think I've been, you know, in my career, you know, have had similar positions, whether it be the running back position or the wide receiver position, that I've been confronted with similar situations. It just happens here that LSU has had this run of, you know, the D-line position's been a turnover position. I don't know why, it just turned up that way. We've turned out great players at the position. So it's not like it's not a position coaches don't want to coach. I think it's much more about they're sought after. Having said that, we certainly have a group that we want to feel as though there's going to be some continuity at the position. I will say that was part of, you know, ultimately, you know, when we looked at the candidates, it wasn't, hey, you got to stay here for, you know, 10 years. But we had that as part of, you know, our process. Like, we were looking for some continuity at the position, and Kyle was looking to, you know, settle in. And so that was an attractive match for us from that perspective. There were certainly other things, but that was one of them. When we talked about the mantra for the spring, it was really focusing on the next stage of development for our total prep for our team, right? You know, we just went through this physical preparation of in the weight room for the last 7 weeks, and, you know, the conditioning element. The next element for us was really honing, you know, the football skills, right? The technical skills, the tactical skills, and that really falls on the individual, right? I mean, he's got to be locked in on that. It can't be, well, I won the drill. Well, okay, you won the drill, but you held them. You won the drill, but, you know, you did things that are not part of our defense or our offense. So it was really about addressing how we develop technically and how we develop as a unit, our 11 players playing together on both sides of the ball. So it was really about challenging yourself to rise your level individually within the entire unit, and that means developing your skill and developing it tactically as well.
Hey, Coach Kelly. I know you're only 3 practices in, but I want to ask you about Harlan Berry. Played at a Class 1A school, so the competition was a little different than some of these other guys. How important was it getting him in the spring? And should we expect to see a lot of Harlan Berry through the spring and into the fall and getting significant playing time as a true freshman?
Well, it's too early to give a, hey, you know, you're going to see a lot of Harlan. But I will say early indications are, I'm pleased with some of the little things that you need to see from a running back. And that is, for example, you know, we run a lot of inside run drill. And that requires, you know, you've got to hit it up inside, and you got to slog it away, and 3 or 4 yards is a good run. You know, Harlem, you know, a touchdown was a good run in high school for him. That was the bar, right? And so you don't know how these guys handle that, right? And it's a change of his mindset. He really clearly understands the running back position is one where sometimes a 3-yard run is a really good run. And we've seen that from him. Today, for example, he had a chance to maybe bounce a play where he really crammed it inside and took the 3 or 4 yards, and it was the right read. Those are, you really don't coach those things. You just have a knack for them, or you don't. And so those early indications are really positive. He's got to keep building in the weight room. He's got to build a coat of armor. He's got to get stronger. But it's a nice thing to see when you don't have to coach every aspect of a particular player, and that's Harlan Berry.
Coach over here. Brian, you lost 4 of your 5 starters at O-line. Can you talk about that, and specifically Karius Kern and Braylon Moore, how they fit in the early picture?
Yeah, so, you know, we lost them after the Oklahoma game is kind of how we looked at it. And then we went to work against Baylor with kind of developing a new group, and that's where, you know, you saw Paul start, and you saw, you know, Tyree Adams start, you know, so we feel like, you know, it wasn't really, you know, 4 out of 5. It was like trying to find a couple of guys, you know, to fill in there. And, you know, I think Braylon's done a nice job early on. Karis Kern, Solomon, both of the freshmen have done a really nice job. I think they're, you know, both of them are physically able. You know, they've got to be able to take the next step in terms of learning, you know, the offense. But they're going to be really good SEC players, you know. The bar here is pretty high, right? Everybody's, you know, thinking, you know, do you have Will Campbell and Emory Jones? I'd like to say that we have those every year, but that's probably not the case. These are really good players that in time are going to help us. I think Weston Davis is doing a nice job. You know, I think, you know, we're gonna rely on, you know, the guys that got a lot of work for us last year. DJ Chester's gotten a lot of work for us. You know, we'll see where that all ends up. But I think there's enough, you know, experience with young players that we're going to put together a really good offensive line.
Hey Brian, just wanted to ask about a quote-unquote injury report. Where some of the guys stand? What can you share?
Well, I mean, you know, Weeks and Perkins would be probably the two guys that you're referring to. They're both moving around. They're very active in our, you know, progression of you know, their rehab, if you will. They're both going to be ready for our June training and fully cleared. So, you know, that gives them the whole month of June and July prior to coming into camp. So they'll have no restrictions going into camp. So, you know, a good 8 weeks leading into camp. We feel really good about it. Those are probably the two, you know, big ones, I would say. Am I missing anybody in terms of injured? Who else? Guillory's made really good progress the last probably 2 or 3 weeks. He was probably a little bit behind, but he's made some really good progress. He'll be in a position to be fully cleared too for our June, and I think that's what we're looking at with the injuries that we have. Are they fully cleared for your June 1st strength and conditioning? So our athletic development team and our athletic trainers have 8 weeks with them to get them ready for camp, and that looks to be on track.
Two-parter, how many calories a day are you trying to get into Harlan Berry? And losing Bo Davis, obviously you had some players that came, he was a big part of why they came to LSU. Have they had some of their fears
They were coming to
alleviated?
LSU for me.
Yeah.
Let's get that clear.
Right.
Okay?
Are they early indication with Kyle that some of their fears and being upset is good with Kyle?
We're putting a lot of, you know, obviously, you know, our nutrition team and Morgan Acosta's doing a great job in monitoring that, and, you know, Coach Wilson's involved in that. It's a village. When it comes to weights and maintaining weights, it's not just one person, it's just a whole team of people. And the player has to be bought into, and he is, and so he knows what he needs to do there. Yeah, look, you know, anytime there's a change, you know, relationships are built with a position coach, but I think we do a really good job here of not putting it all on one coach. You know, it's the defensive coordinator, it's the head coach, it's the strength and conditioning team, it's nutrition. So when we talk about recruiting, the player is touched by so many different people, and I think that's important in recruiting. If you're going to a place just for one person, you're making a mistake, That doesn't mean you don't have a lead recruiter and you have a relationship with them. But if that's the only reason why you're going to a particular school, coaches leave. Coaches move on. And if that's the only reason why, you need to really evaluate why you're going to that particular institution. And so certainly there were phone calls, and you have to touch base, and Kyle got on the phone with any of our recruits and spent time with the players, because you start a new relationship. But it's LSU really, and it's the football program that at the end of the day is put under the spotlight, and we feel confident that that will stand up in most cases.
We have time for 2 more.
Coach, I wanted to ask about Josh Thompson. What's sort of keeping him away from the team right now, and when you can?
Well, they're on
expect to get him back?
quarters, so he's finishing up his academics. He'll be here next week.
Next week.
Yeah.
And what do you hope to see from him? I guess once
A
he
good
gets on
football
campus?
player. No, another addition to, which, as we talked about, a very talented, transfer class that will bring, Big Ten reps into our offensive line. So a versatile player that can play guard or tackle. We haven't decided where that will be. It'll be kind of putting the pieces together to see how that fits. He's smart, he's physical, and he brings us an experienced offensive lineman, so he'll be here next week.
Hey, Brian. You were mentioning how Nussmeier needs to, develop a good relationship and confidence with those receivers. A couple of those receivers I want to ask about were Aaron Anderson and Destin Hill. What have you seen from those 2 guys? And as a coach, does the fact that a couple of guys on the same roster are having high school experience together, does that ever help for, rapport or building that kind of relationship on the offensive side?
Well, I think when you bring in, let's just use the example of Destin Hill. He feels a lot more comfortable making the move because he knows players. He's played against them, and he's had them on his team. So the transition for Destin has been really seamless, and it's made it easy for him. He's been somebody that, maybe didn't get as much recognition early on. He's had a really good, off-season, and has done a really nice job for us. So I think that transition has made it easier for him to kind of blend in right away. But I don't know that, playing together helps Nussmeier as much. He still has to go through, the routine of this guy gets out of his break quicker. His post cut is a little bit more shallow, and I think he's working that out with a lot of these receivers.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Brian. They come for your dancing, by the way.
What's that?
They come for your dancing.
Listen, I haven't done that in a long time.
They're still coming.
I think it's still out there in the library of our Twitter sphere.
Ether?
You know which one.
I've played with him. I've played with him out, and that's where I got to know him. I played with him a couple times out in Tahoe at the NBC event.